and the Netherlands and elsewhere, and the other things that I made him do. Not everything came from abroad. In 1561, Philip told his Minister of Public Works, "I want some myrtles to be brought immediately from Valencia to be planted here this year, and also some trees that are said to grow there called locust trees, which are very beautiful. The minister must not only arrange for their delivery, but also hire an experienced gardener to plant them, and find out where we can find orange trees for the Pardo." The king bought in bulk, so that by the time of his death the gardens in Aranjuez boasted almost 223,000 trees, all of them planted under his personal supervision. According to Catherine Wilkinson Zerner, Aranjuez was the largest domesticated landscape before Versailles, and its design was unique. Philip was a keen fisherman in both rivers and ponds, and he normally took steps to ensure he would get a good catch. First, he eliminated all competition with draconian legislation. Anyone caught fishing in the royal ponds would receive 100 lashes for the first offence, and would be sent to the galleys for the second. Then he cheated. One day in 1566, he gave orders that, in case I am free to go to the Pardo, lower the water level in the small pond tonight, so that it will already be lower tomorrow, and I can fish there if I want. A few years later, he adopted the same technique when he and some of his courtiers wanted to fish in the large pond at La Fresneda, near the Escorial. One of his engineers lowered the water in the pond, and they caught many fish. Against such an unscrupulous and determined angler, the royal fish had no chance. More exotically, Philip created 2 zoos. One at the Casa de Campo boasted elephants, rhinoceros, and lions, but security proved less than perfect. In 1563, a lioness escaped and almost mauled a courtier to death while the royal family looked on helplessly from their coach. The smaller royal zoo at Aranjuez started with 4 camels, brought to the palace from Africa. Since they proved useful as beasts of burden on construction sites, they were encouraged to breed, and by 1600 there were about 40 of them. In 1584 the king added ostriches from Africa, and to avoid making a mistake in the design of the ostrich house, he ordered 2 different designs, one suitable just for ostriches, which will cost 500 ducats, and the other also suitable for other sorts of birds, costing 3,000 ducats. Philip chose the cheaper one, but this proved to be a false economy. One day a wild ostrich escaped and attacked a gardener, injuring him so severely that he was off work for several weeks. Patron of arts and sciences. Philip was an avid collector of artistic treasures. By the time of his death he owned a hoard of over 5,000 coins and medals, all in special cabinets. He possessed jewels and works of art in silver and gold. He had 137 astrolabes and watches. He accumulated musical instruments, trinkets, precious stones, and 113 statues of famous people in bronze and marble. The size of these collections, like his 7,422 relics, chapter 5, suggests an obsession with acquiring things. But Philip had a genuine and almost inexhaustible curiosity. Thus, in 1583, he made a special visit to Segovia to see that excellent machine for minting coins, invented by the Archduke of Austria, just installed there. 4 years later, when Jean l'Hermite arrived from Antwerp with a pair of skates, the king arranged for a skating display on the frozen lake at the Casa de Campo, and took his children out in a warm coach to watch. Afterwards he summoned the new arrival to approach, because he wanted to examine close up one of my skates, which I showed him. Since the ice continued for 3 more weeks, the royal party turned out several times to watch l'Hermite execute 3 or 4 audacious pirouettes on the middle of the ice. The king employed another Fleming, Francis Holbeek, who was in charge of distilling perfumed water at the Palace of Aranjuez, to create a botanical garden from which to produce quintessences capable of curing human ailments, according to the teachings attributed to Ramon Llull. Philip systematically collected copies of Llull's works for the Escorial library. The project was in full swing by 1569, when Francisco Franco, professor of medicine.